Welcome to the Deep Dives. This is where we take a look at highly specialized industrial documents to pull out the strategic insights that, you really need to know. And if you work in heavy industry, I'm talking oil and gas, utilities, big manufacturing, you are constantly trying to avoid that industrial ugly surprise.
And that surprise, it's rarely some big dramatic explosion. It's usually that slow, grinding feeling when you realize a critical piece of equipment is seizing up.
Right.
And that leads to a shutdown that can cost hundreds of thousands of dollars an hour. That kind of chaos, that's the real enemy here.
Absolutely. The main goal for every single maintenance manager is just to have, as the documentation puts it, quiet, boring days.
I love that phrase.
And today we're doing a deep dive into a product that's maybe not glamorous, but is absolutely central to that goal. Lubriplate No 105 Anti-Seize Grease.
So our mission today is to really dig into the source material. We've got a detailed technical and procurement guide from an industrial supplier, PE Energy. And we want to figure out how this one specific grease goes from being just a chemical in a tub to, well, a strategic asset, something that boosts uptime and, just as importantly, massively simplifies your logistics.
So this is a deep dive into prevention and really the whole business of managing industrial supplies.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's unpack it. Lubriplate No 105. Before we get into the strategy, let's get a crisp definition. What are we actually talking about here?
At its core, it's a semi-fluid, grease-type lubricant. It's white, it's designed to be totally waterproof, and the really key part is its classification, NLGI No, zero grease.
Okay, that NLGI classification, the National Lubricating Grease Institute grade, that's important. So if you're used to seeing, say, an NLGI No 2 for bearings, what does that 0 tell you right away?
It tells you this isn't your standard stiff chassis grease. That no grade rate means it's semi-fluid. It's much, much softer.
And that's on purpose.
Oh, completely. That's the whole mechanism that lets it do its main job, which is providing exceptional anti-seize capability. For it to work, the lubricant has to get into every single tiny crevice of a thread or a valve stem.
Right, it needs to flow.
It has to flow. Its fluidity lets it create this robust, full coverage barrier almost instantly. A stiffer grease just couldn't do that.
So let's focus on that anti-seize function.
Yeah.
What's the specific high-stakes problem that NORNA 105 is built to prevent?
The enemy here is galling and fusing.
Yeah.
This is what happens when metal parts, especially threaded things like bolts and flanges, get hit with high-pressure, heat, and corrosive stuff like salt water.
They basically just weld themselves together.
Pretty much. The pressure causes the surfaces to cold weld, so when your crews come back, maybe years later, to take it apart, the bolt is just inseparable from the nut.
And then you're in real trouble.
Then you need extreme measures, breaker bars, torches, the works.
So it's not just about reducing friction when the machine is running. It's about guaranteeing serviceability, making sure the bolt you tighten today can actually be loosened 5 years from now.
Without destroying it. Exactly. This stuff is made to cling, to push water out of the way on contact, and to hold that protective layer even if it gets hit with steam or chemical washdowns. Keeping those connections serviceable is the absolute key to having any kind of predictable maintenance schedule.
And the documentation points out this big versatility advantage. In a lot of shops, you have a different specialty product for every little problem.
Right. And your shelves are just cluttered.
Yeah.
The whole idea here is simplification. No. 105 is designed to replace a bunch of those single-use products. It does corrosion protection, it does anti-seize, assembly lube, and just general shop use where things get wet.
So it becomes the one go-to can.
It's the multi-cool in the maintenance drawer. One trusted product for a ton of applications. It just cuts down on all that complexity.
Let's talk about the bottom line, the dollars and cents. Because in heavy ops, a product is only useful if the ROI is, immediate and obvious. How does stopping one seized bolt translate into real savings?
It's fascinating because it saves money in 5 different ways at once. A bolt seizes. First, you're wasting labor time. Guys are fighting it with breaker bars. That's lost time right there.
And probably damaging the equipment around it.
That's the next step. You strip the threads, you have to replace more parts, and now you're pulling from inventory you didn't plan to.
And the clock is ticking the whole time. Right, the line is down while all this is happening.
Precisely. You've just gone from a planned, maybe 30-minute job to an unplanned, multi-hour salvage operation. No, 105 just stops that whole negative spiral at step 1. It makes disassembly as clean as assembly.
And the environment is often the biggest enemy. That waterproof feature for a coastal refinery or an offshore rig, that has to be a non-negotiable spec.
It's more than mandatory. It's foundational. For any facility dealing with salt spray or steam cleaning, that waterproofing is a difference between a controlled schedule and just constant random
It
failures.
creates a seal.
A moisture-proof seal right at that interface. It preserves the metal and stops the corrosion that helps fuse threads together in the first place.
We mentioned the NLGI No Zero grade. Let's talk about the practical side of that for the technician in the field. It's not just that it flows, it's about how easy it is to work with.
The consistency is everything for usability. It flows easily, so a tech can apply it quickly and get it deep into the threads. But, and this is key, it's still a grease. It sticks where you put it.
So it's not dripping everywhere.
It won't slump or run down a vertical surface. That minimizes waste, sure,
Yeah.
but more importantly, it doesn't contaminate other parts or create a slip hazard on the floor.
The guide gives this perfect real-world case study, the refinery example. It really brings the ROI to life. Can you walk us through that?
Yeah, this was a huge issue. At this one refinery, the maintenance crews were just constantly fighting with seized instrument valves.
The small, critical ones for process control.
The really critical ones. And when the valve stem seized, the force they needed to break it free often meant they had to just replace the entire valve body.
Which is a massive job. You might have to break a seal on a live system just to fix a stuck stem.
That's the high cost of things being unpredictable. So the solution was, it was almost laughably simple. They just started applying now 105 to the stem threads and packing nuts during routine maintenance.
And the result.
The sources say the number of emergency valve replacements just plummeted almost overnight.
Let's just pause on that for a second. This isn't just saving the cost of a valve, which might be, what, $500?
Oh, it's way more than that.
When a crew has to fight equipment, you trigger this whole cascade of other costs. You might need a crane. You might need hot work permits if you have to cut the bolt.
Expensive safety oversight, specialty contractors. The real saving is getting rid of all those high-risk, high-cost jobs. By stopping the seizure, the valve can be serviced quickly with just hand tools.
You maintain system integrity.
And you shift the entire operation from chaotic, reactive troubleshooting to predictable, planned maintenance. That predictability, that is operational gold.
And this product really does bridge the gap between the crew on the floor and the people in the procurement office. The documentation points to 4 key stakeholders who really care about this.
That's right. First, you've got the maintenance managers. They get that predictability they crave. They can actually trust their schedules. Second, the safety officers.
Because serviceable equipment is safer equipment.
Exactly. A technician isn't risking an injury trying to break a frozen flange. Then you have the field techs themselves who just get a product that's easy to apply and doesn't make a mess.
And finally, the purchasing teams.
Correct. And for them, it's not just about price. It's about reliability, clear documentation, and making the whole buying cycle more efficient. This is where the product becomes truly strategic.
Let's dig into that procurement math. Because saving labor time is one thing, but standardizing on a single product creates these hidden logistical savings.
It's not sexy, but it's massive. You take those few minutes a tech saves, multiply it by dozens of jobs a month, then multiply that across your whole operation.
You're talking about some serious annual labor savings.
Enough to justify the product purchase many, many times over. So procurement starts thinking less about how cheap is this can of grease and more about what's the annual cost reduction this one product gives us.
Which leads right into the value of simplifying your inventory. SKU reduction.
When you standardize on one trusted product, you clear out so much clutter. Reducing your stock-keeping units, it simplifies everything. Less training needed, less chance of someone grabbing the wrong product for the job.
And easier purchase orders.
Faster, fewer errors. The goal of a good procurement team isn't complexity, it's stability, it's standardization.
Okay, so let's make sure that when crews are using this stuff, they're getting the most out of it.
Yeah.
What are the key application best practices from the guide?
The number one rule is just basic cleanliness. They stress applying it to clean, dry surfaces. You got to get the heavy rust or old gunk off first. The lubricant forms a barrier. It's not designed to eat through old corrosion.
And for threaded parts, what's the best technique to get that maximum anti-seize performance?
The source is very clear on this. A thin but consistent coating. You want to cover all the threads, but also make sure you get the bearing surfaces under the bolt head and on the face of the nut.
Right.
That complete layer is what stops that initial metal-to-metal contact that starts the galling process in the first place.
All right, now let's switch over to the buying side. For a purchasing pro, the packaging isn't just a can. It reflects the entire supply chain strategy. PE Energy breaks it down by use case.
Yeah, and the sizes are tailored perfectly. You start with the smallest unit, the little 38-ounce tube, sold in cases.
For the field service kits.
Exactly. Perfect for a tech's toolbox, for quick spot jobs, or to keep on the truck for an emergency repair out in the field.
Then you scale up for the main shop.
That's the 35-pound pail. The guide calls it the no-nonsense shop solution. This is the one you keep at the maintenance bench for all your scheduled work and rebuilds. It's the workhorse.
And for the biggest users. The ones running multiple plants or who are all in on supply chain stability.
They go for the 120-pound quarter drum. That's where your unit cost is the absolute lowest. But more importantly, ordering in drums just minimizes how often you have to reorder, and it cuts down on inventory carrying costs. It's a strategic move for a plant that values bulk stability.
And that really underscores a key point. Industrial buyers don't just want a low price. They need a supplier who is a logistics partner. What does PE Energy do to meet that need?
Their whole focus is on compliance and predictability. First, documentation. They get you the SDS, the safety data sheets and product sheets fast.
Which is critical.
It's a total non-negotiable. If the safety officer can't sign off on the paperwork, the crews can't use the product, the whole workflow just stops.
So the supplier has to be plugged into the plant's compliance system.
Precisely. And second, they handle complex logistics. They offer multi-site stocking programs, bulk pricing. For a company with a few different facilities, they can manage the inventory centrally and make sure every location gets what it needs reliably.
Which avoids those expensive last-minute emergency buys.
The ones that just wreck your budget. Exactly. And finally, they back it all up with technical resources. They provide access to other specialty lubricants, technical guides.
So if you decide to standardize on their products, you have the support you need to make the right choice for every single application in the plant.
It builds confidence. It's vital.
Okay, so if we boil down everything we've learned from this deep dive into the documentation, what's the one core takeaway for our listener?
The core takeaway is that Lubriplate No 105. It isn't just a chemical product. It's an enabler of process stability. It's a practical, hardworking lubricant that reduces friction, yes, but more powerfully, it reduces the costly unpredictability of industrial maintenance.
And choosing the right package size is part of that strategy.
It's a huge part. The tubes for the trucks, the pails for the shop, the drums for the plant, that's what supports an efficient maintenance cycle across the entire organization.
This whole deep dive really takes the conversation way beyond just chemical specs. It's about organizational strategy.
And that really raises a final question for you, the listener, to think about in your own operations. The documents are all about predictability and simplified inventory. So think about your budget. How much of it isn't actually for doing the work, but for compensating for unpredictability?
The chaos, the emergency buys, the contractor delays.
All of it, the inventory complexity. And then ask yourself how standardizing on one single reliable product like 105 could impact the performance of your entire organization, from the tech saving 5 minutes on a bolt all the way up to the procurement team locking in a stable multi-site supply contract.
That's the real strategic value of the hidden hero.